This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about what are called Bitcoin blood coins, as well as some other very important news. So make sure you stay tuned until the end of this video. We have Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank fame talking about what he calls blood coins. Now these are coins that he says Bitcoin that were mined in China, and he has vowed that he's only going to deal with clean coins, in other words, Bitcoin that were not mined in China. The good thing about this pronouncement is that Kevin O'Leary has earned 2 virtue points for his virtue signaling. He said something virtuous on social media and solidified his membership in a particular political group. Unfortunately, Kevin O'Leary has his different views on energy consumption, carbon, etc., and they don't seem to be very consistent, though he is very pro-corporation. He says corporate tax rates in Canada are too high, and he's proposed to eliminate the national carbon tax, which I'm not sure how he squares that with his clean energy stance. He also is in favor of Canadian oil sands, pipelines, etc. But the bigger point here is that we should not distinguish between Bitcoin. All Bitcoin are the same. All Bitcoin are fungible. And if we go down this road where we label Bitcoin based on whatever the prevailing political winds are, we'll end up in a problem. It's just in a bad place. It's just not practical. We could say, uh-oh, bad man with wrong political beliefs or bad country once owned this Bitcoin. What if you have a Bitcoin that was owned by a murderer or a person on the far left or the far right, and depending what the prevailing winds are, this coin would be dirty, then it would be clean. Maybe when we have a Democrat as president, all the Republican Bitcoins are dirty, and then when we have a Republican president, all the Democrat Bitcoins are dirty. This is not how money functions. It has to be fungible, and Kevin O'Leary really shows his ignorance of money and of energy by making a pronouncement like this. As we all know, Bitcoin is permissionless, it's censorship-resistant. Bad people can use it, good people can use it, and your own opinion of who's bad and who's good may even change over time if you're an intelligent and open-minded person. So labeling coins, I think, is very, very dangerous. We loved China from 2001 to about 2015. The US couldn't stop saying enough nice things about China. And this is, of course, when they were buying all of our treasury bonds. Now that they've stopped buying them on the margin, and all of a sudden China is becoming the bad guy. Now, this is not to minimize the Uyghur genocide or any of the bad things that China does. I'm not a fan of the Chinese Communist Party, so this is not intended to be an apology for that. But money needs to be neutral. If a $100 bill has passed through the hands of a cocaine dealer somewhere, it's still a $100 bill. And the history of that $100 bill really shouldn't matter if it is money. Money needs to be fungible. The other problem with this, as we said, is that U.S. foreign policy is constantly changing. U.S. supported Saddam Hussein in Iraq for many, many years. And then once he stopped selling his oil for dollars and tried to sell it for euros, all of a sudden he became a bad guy. He was a bad guy the whole time. He was a pretty brutal dictator. But we have to understand that just depending on what U.S. foreign policy is, we can't label coins from certain countries bad or good because it changes over time. And for example, today, our Iraqi Bitcoin, are they clean or dirty? I would guess Iran Bitcoin would be considered dirty by the U.S. government, but this is ridiculous, and this is the logic that Kevin O'Leary's argument plays into. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, also not a fan of the U.S. government and how it's been doing things for the last few years at least. As we also know, there is a lot of electricity that's generated by burning coal in China, but a lot of the electricity that's used for mining Bitcoin is also hydroelectric driven. It's electricity generated through hydroelectric power. And so it's even difficult to distinguish within China which are the good Bitcoin and which are the bad Bitcoin. The nice thing about Bitcoin miners, when you have a competitive environment and you have free markets, Bitcoin miners will always seek out the lowest cost electricity. And what this means is over time, more and more Bitcoin miners will move to green energy sources. We talked about this in yesterday's video as well. The marginal cost of solar energy, wind energy, even hydroelectric is zero once you have the equipment set up, or it's very close to zero. It's certainly much lower than fossil fuels. And so I personally think that Bitcoin mining is going to play a huge role in the move to renewable energy resources, as we talked about yesterday using the example of aluminum smelters in Iceland. The other thing that we need to remember, which I'm constantly talking about on this channel, is that using a lot of energy is not a bad thing. It's actually the mark of an advanced civilization. It's the mark of a civilization where people have running water, they can heat their homes, they can air condition their homes. And this is certainly something that we can do. Have water treatment plants that produce clean water. We can have pipes that take away the sewage, etc. And this is the mark of an advanced civilization. Using dirty energy that destroys the air, destroys the water is not a good thing. But using energy itself, the more advanced we become, the more energy we use. And if you look at standard of living, if you look at health, if you look at longevity statistics, it's the countries that use the most electricity that have the highest human standard of living. As I say, mud huts use zero electricity, but we'd like to have something better than that. We'd like to have running clean water for the world's population. We'd like to have everyone with an internet connection, etc. And this is the great irony of using the internet to virtue signal about electricity consumption, being that it consumes 10% of global electricity. I think this is actually a good thing. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that I think is a waste of time. There's also a lot of stuff that I think is very valuable, but I'm not going to tell other people what they can do on the internet. And it's a neutral, or it should be a neutral medium, just like Bitcoin. And one of the things that Bitcoin is helping us move towards is reminding us of what decentralization looks like. And there are a lot of interesting, for example, chat and text products. They're being built. I'm blanking on the name of it, but they're being built on top of the Lightning Network and making texting and messaging. I believe it's called Sphinx Chat, making it uncensorable. Even someone like Elon Musk, who obviously no one would ever say he's against clean energy, he's trying to get us into space. He's trying to get us to explore the far reaches of the solar system. And if you are going to become a spacefaring civilization, the amount of energy you're going to consume as a civilization is going to be many, many magnitudes higher than where we are today. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Having cars, having airplanes, especially having electric vehicles is a good thing. You can still ride a horse if you want, but if you need to get supplies somewhere quickly, if you need to get antibiotics to a remote part of the world, it's really nice to have airplanes and cars. So I don't like Kevin OLeary's virtue signaling here. I think it's very, very misguided. And as I said, political winds come and go. Here's how we were friends with Saddam when he was gassing the people of Iran, and then all of a sudden we decided we weren't friends with him. I should pause right here and say, if you're finding this video useful, please hit the subscribe and like button and share it with a couple friends if you can as well. Just a reminder, the fundamental principles of Bitcoin, one of them, as we've been saying, is that it is fungible. And this is why we can't have people labeling one coin as bad, one coin as good. It's completely impractical. And there's no reason for this any more than there's reason to label various electricities or various countries as bad or good. The real world is much more complicated than that. Meanwhile, inflation continues to run quite hot. The CPI readings are about 1.5%. And then if you look at everything else that you need in real life, it's obviously up a lot over the past year. Oil, 80%, corn, steel, wheat, coffee, all the basic commodities, home values, up a lot more than 8% in many parts of the country. Stock market's up. And obviously the money supply is up. This is what's really happening, and Bitcoin is keeping pace with this. We can see the enormous jump. These are snapshots of Bitcoin's price on Western Easter Sunday every year, and we can see just the enormous percentage move from last year. Obviously, Bitcoin had sold off a lot last March. This is skewing it a little bit, but this shows the actual loss of purchasing power of the US dollar, whether you want to call it inflation or devaluation or whatever you want to call it. But Bitcoin is a very good store of value and a way of maintaining purchasing power. This is a pretty funny sheet. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, using Michael Saylor quotes about to answer all the anti-Bitcoin arguments. So I'll link to this. I'm not going to go through all of it, but for example, governments will ban Bitcoin. Well, you can always move to a different country. Quantum computers, if they crack Bitcoin, we're going to have a bigger problem first as the whole financial system gets hacked, and nuclear launch codes. We talked about how anyone can use Bitcoin, so criminals will use it, and normal law-abiding citizens will use it. We've talked a lot about gold and Bitcoin, etc. So I'll let you go through this on your own. A good reminder, though, from previous videos that Bitcoin uses too much energy. We need to compare it to the legacy financial system, and bombing Iraq cost about $5 trillion combined with Afghanistan. Preserving the legacy financial system uses a lot of energy as well, and also kills a lot of people. Good reminder when you see the arguments from commenters on my channel that you can't spend Bitcoin anywhere. Haven't really been seeing this since the Tesla news, since you can now buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. But obviously PayPal, you can now use spend Bitcoin. Not that you'd want to spend it, because you should be saving it and spending your dirty fiat money instead. But you can now use Bitcoin at 29 million merchants. So another anti-Bitcoin argument falls. Meanwhile, we've had the Teletubby news. I couldn't quite figure out what that was about, whether they were issuing their own coin or whether they were just endorsing Bitcoin. Not that interested in digging too deep, but one celebrity after another continues to pile into Bitcoin, Paris Hilton being the latest. And this is this string of celebrities and influencers moving into Bitcoin is the way that Bitcoin really has a free marketing budget. And as the price goes up, it obviously draws a lot of attention as well. The number go up technology. Good reminder here from Michael Saylor about the compounded annual growth rates of Bitcoin. Bitcoin over the last 10 years has compounded at approximately 200%. Gold is compounded at slightly less than 2%, not even keeping up with inflation. For all you gold bugs out there who are still living in a dream world. S&P up about 11% a year over the last 10 years. Even Tesla only up 63%, and Amazon up 33%. This is the power of network effects and technology that bootstraps itself using network effects. And I would expect this to continue for at least a few more years as well. Good point here from Ken Rogoff, who's a well-known economist, that as more and more billionaires, corporations, and other influential investors come into Bitcoin, it puts pressures on regulators not to do anything. This is the main reason that Bitcoin will never be banned in the U.S. And people who say that it's going to be really haven't been following along very well. I'm always being asked, how can I earn Bitcoin? How can I get more Bitcoin? I haven't really dug into this, but I thought I'd provide the link. You can get daily Bitcoin bounties for doing various tasks and tutorials. This looks legitimate to me. Make sure you do your own due diligence, but kind of intriguing if you want an alternate way of accumulating Bitcoin. Finally, a lot of questions about Ethereum as it hits, or as people say that it's hitting new highs as it did a couple days ago. This is the chart of Ethereum denominated in fiat US dollars. It looks very different when you denominate it in Bitcoin. And this is how you have to think of everything. Everything has an opportunity cost versus Bitcoin. So when we look at Ethereum denominated in Bitcoin, it's still in a very long bear market and failing to keep up in spite of everything. And so when you're investing in cryptocurrencies, you can't be content just with making money versus the US dollar. These days you can buy virtually anything and do better than the US dollar. You can fill your basement with copper or cotton or even soybeans and outperform almost everything. denominated in dollars. But the real key is, can you outperform Bitcoin? Can you outperform Bitcoin in your crypto trading after you pay taxes? Probably not. And if you hodl these altcoins, you will not do as well as Bitcoin. If you're holding Ethereum instead of Bitcoin in all of your portfolio or part of your portfolio, you're making an implicit bet that this chart is going to reverse. Maybe it will, but it's highly doubtful. Something similar for XRP. XRP Army still holding out hope that somehow this lawsuit's going to go away. But whether it goes away or not, we can see how XRP's been massively underperforming Bitcoin really since its inception. So this is the problem with dabbling in other cryptocurrencies. You deserve the best. Don't settle for one of these inferior currencies where you might feel like you're making money in fiat, but you're actually falling behind and becoming more and more poor versus Bitcoiners. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.